Hello there. This is Clayton speaking, and I'm a program advisor at the BC Arts Council Secretariat, and this is an information video on the arts-based community development and Leon and Thea Koerner Award programs. We at the BC Arts Council carry out our work on the lands of Indigenous nations throughout what is colonially known as British Columbia, and we are grateful for the continuing relationships with Indigenous people in BC that develop through our work together. We raise our hands in gratitude to the Lekwungen people, known today as the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, on whose ancestral lands we operate our main offices, and all of the more than 198 distinct First Nations and over 35 specific linguistic groups across our province. We also want to acknowledge and thank the First Peoples Cultural Council, with whom we've been partners for many years in the delivery of Indigenous arts programs. This presentation is going to go through two programs you can apply to in one application. That's the Arts-Based Community Development Grants and the Leon and Thea Koerner Award. So you're probably wondering, what exactly is arts-based community development? And how is it different than other arts practices? Isn't everything developing communities? Well, yes and no. Arts-based community development, or A-BCD, focuses on getting community members engaged in the arts and cultural activity to foster social development through creation and collaboration. ABCD projects involve a professional artist or group of artists facilitating artistic creation activities of community participants to illuminate creative pathways to health, well-being, expression, relationship building, and civic engagement. The basics of ABCD are: the community of participants is the ones doing the creating. The artists take a back seat in creation and act more as a facilitator of the ideas and support person for the creative processes, and that the whole project itself should be collaborative and work to follow the creative spirit of the participating community members. We'll get more into the techniques and principles of arts-based community development processes a little later in this presentation, but it is a very specific and well-defined practice that does vary from the conventional approach to artistic creation and presentation. Arts-based community development programs support organizations to engage professional artists in the development and delivery of projects that are providing arts-based community development impacts and benefits to a specified community. Through those collaborative, community-based, art-centered activities, these projects should provide a tangible and active understanding of arts and culture as a path to health, well-being, human dignity, and social transformation by way of the creation process that the community members will engage in. We all know how valuable artistic creation can be as a method of communication, self-reflection, learning, personal growth, and community building, as well as civic engagement, even just to process your life and the world. An ABCD process supports community members in engaging in creation and bringing creativity into their lives. This program also supports the training or mentoring of artists or community workers to understand and learn about how to create this and safely implement or facilitate arts-based community development projects. This type of training is for professionals interested in facilitating ABCD community creations and should be led by a professional artist or practitioner with years of experience working in the ABCD format. It can be tough to take a back seat in creation as an artist, but there are many wonderful practitioners out there who do just that and allow the community participants to make and create something themselves. So, if you're interested in facilitating community participants to create new artworks or want to train professionals in how to facilitate creation by community participants, then keep watching. If you're not interested in that, then why don't you check out some of our other programs? Chances are that there is another program at BC Arts Council that supports what you want to do. But before we get into too many specifics about what kinds of projects would be eligible, let's go over the who is eligible, just to make sure that you can apply. So, the second component of this program is the Leon and Thea Koerner Award, which we'll often refer to as the LTK Award. So, it was established in 1955. The Leon and Thea Koerner Foundation has provided over $10 million in grants to arts and culture and social service organizations throughout BC and the Yukon. In 2015, the foundation transitioned from 60 years of continuous grant making into an endowment that supports the Leon and Thea Koerner Award, or the LTK Award, which is now administered through us here at the BC Arts Council Secretariat. The LTK Award sustains a legacy through annual awards to registered charities and other qualified donees in BC that are creating social benefit using professional arts based activity in collaboration with community and social service agencies. The LTK Award is aimed at achieving social benefit and recognizing excellence and innovation, leading to social change or transformation. And these principles align with the principles of arts based community development. So, just to be clear, you can apply for one of these two programs, or you can apply to both of these components in one application. But there are some different eligibilities and requirements for each, which I'll go over. But first, we'll start with who can apply. So, within this one grant application, there are these two separate programs, the ABCD and the LTK Award. Uh, each one has its own eligibility. For ABCD, you must be a registered non for profit organization or a First Nations bound council or another Indigenous community organization. For the LTK award, though, your organization must be a registered charity, meaning you are registered with the Canada Revenue Agency as a charity and you give out tax receipts. You may also be another kind of qualified donee under the Income Tax Act, such as a First Nation. If you're not sure if you're a charity or a qualified donee, chances are pretty good that you're not. There's a lot in filing involved in being a charity that you would not forget. But when you're in doubt, reach out to us and we can verify if you're eligible. So, organizations must provide arts and culture or community programming in BC as a primary activity and have done for a minimum of at least 1 year prior to the application deadline. You also must be registered and in good standing as a nonprofit society or community service co op in BC for at least one fiscal year prior to application, with a majority of your key staff, paid or volunteer, and board members based in BC. You must provide programs that benefit the community at large and not solely the interests of the nonprofit society members. You must also engage competent artistic, curatorial, and administrative leadership, volunteer or paid, for project delivery, and fairly compensate artists, arts and cultural practitioners, technicians, elders, and knowledge keepers. Compensation must align with the project and community context and industry standards within your field of practice. Organizations must also be working with a professional artist. So you'll need to identify who the professional artist is and be prepared to talk about their professional work and have them complete a form themselves talking about their process and their intentions in the project. You'll also need to follow international intellectual property rights standards and cultural ownership protocols. You'll need to follow the Criminal Records Review Act, which requires that people who work with or may have unsupervised access to children or vulnerable adults must undergo a criminal records check by the Criminal Records Review Program. You also must have completed any overdue BC Arts Council final reports before the deadline. In addition to being a registered charity or qualified donee for the LTK award component, organizations must also be working with a professional artist, just like an ABCD. But in particular, if you're not an arts and culture organization, like if you're a social service organization or a First Nations band council, you'll need to identify the professional artist and have them complete that form. If you're not a social service agency or organization, then you'll also need to be working with one of those types of organizations, and they must confirm that by a letter in support of your application. You'll also need to identify at least one individual person as a social service lead and have them fill out a form talking about how they will support the project delivery and the safety and care of the people participating in the creation process. And if you're not a social service organization, you can also reach out to us and verify what you might need for the application. So, all that being said, if you're still watching, chances are you believe that you're eligible. So, now what about the project you're thinking of? What exactly makes a project eligible as arts based community development? So, I'll go into the arts based community development principles that we consider when evaluating projects and even some specific examples of what projects are eligible and some examples of projects that are not eligible for this program. So, you can hopefully start to understand the differences. So, what makes a good A-B-C-D project? There are several principles to follow when you're approaching arts based community development projects. ABCD is a respectful, collaborative process through which a professional artist works as a catalyst or facilitator to engage a specified community in the creation of artwork in various disciplines. Community members are involved at every level, including in the development of the idea, the creation, and the presentation of the artwork, with all those participants as equal contributors. The strength and the impact of the ABCD processes used to create the artwork are as important as the project outcome itself. And art is an effective mechanism for social transformation and can create deeper connections than other more polarizing avenues of social change. And participating in collective creation is a powerful act of civic involvement. So these are all components that should be part of an ABCD project. Within the program, there are two categories. The first one is Category 1, New Work by Participants. And applications for new work by participant projects have professional artists facilitating an artistic creation process with a specified community to create new artistic work. So the community members are creating themselves. They are collaborative with participants actively involved in the development of the ideas and making of the artwork. They clearly describe the ABCD processes that'll be used by the artists and the participants in developing the work and the community development outcomes that are hoped for. These could be benefits to the participants related to community involvement or social, environmental, or health impacts, for example. They should also publicly present the collaborative artwork created by the participants, which allows those participants to gain a sense of pride and accomplishment in their artistic creation. And we also do recognize the long term commitment required of community engaged arts practice like arts based community development. And we do allow for projects to be presented in single iterations or in phases over a maximum of 3 years. The second category, category 2, is training for ABCD practitioners. Training for ABCD practitioners projects focus on training and skills development for artists to be able to initiate and conduct arts based community development activities. They create opportunities for experienced arts based community development practitioners to demonstrate new ways of knowledge sharing, including training or mentoring artists or social service practitioners in safe and effective approaches to arts based community development. They also enhance the capacity of artists to provide leadership by offering them an opportunity to develop their practice as a means of community transformation or social change. And they may also involve creation of new works by participants in a specified community, but a significant component and focus of the project must describe the training and learning for ABCD practitioners taking place under supervision and mentorship of an experienced ABCD practitioner or practitioners as project leads. And if you are doing a new work by participants while using that to mentor the group of artists that you're training, then they can also include a public presentation if it's applicable to your project. So for this particular program, the focus is less on the end product or production or performance or exhibition, and really more on the process being used and the benefits of the community members participating in the act of collaborative art creation, where they are empowered to lead the process, to initiate the topics or subject matters to be explored, and to have collaborative artistic control. The professional artist should be acting really more as a facilitator or a guide to support the community participants in their creation and presentation of the new work, and be receiving some opportunity for personal or community transformation or benefit outside of artistic skill development. Here are a few examples that may help clarify category one for you. One would be a social service organization that is working with a composer and a musician to support a specified group of parents to compose and perform some original lullabies. That would be an eligible project. Perhaps there's even a project follow up a year later to check back in with those parents and see if their kids are singing the lullabies yet. Another example of an eligible project would be an Indigenous government or community organization working with elders and community members to revitalize artistic and cultural traditions through the creation of some new artworks that are presented then to their community at the First Nation. Another example would be a theater organization with the support of social service practitioners working with some people who are incarcerated to create and present a new collaborative theater piece together based on their experiences. Or perhaps a community arts organization working with a visual artist and young people creating artwork for an exhibition based on the ideas and the experiences which explore themes of inclusion and anti-bullying that came from those young people. Or another example might be a community support organization working with writers and editors to support elderly adults in care to write, edit, compile, and present stories from their lives based on themes that the elders proposed themselves. Here's a few examples of activities that are not eligible for category one. So, one example might be parents performing music that they had been taught by a professional artist, but that they didn't compose or create themselves. That would not be eligible in this program. Neither would hiring an artist just to paint a mural or to create a piece of public art. We have other programs that deal with commissioning artists. Another ineligible activity would be presenting public performances that are not new work that have been created by community participants. So, just bringing in a band or bringing in a show. We have other programs that will support that. And also, youth performing a play or a musical that they didn't create or collaborate in, that would not be eligible. In fact, none of these activities are eligible because they don't involve community doing the actual creation. So they're not eligible in this program. In terms of category two, training for ABCD practitioners, workshops are training delivered by skilled ABCD practitioners for professional artists and or social service practitioners that teaches ABCD skills and tactics in community collaborative creation would be totally eligible. Workshops are training from experienced social service practitioners working with experienced ABCD practitioners to train professional artists, elders, or knowledge keepers in creating safe, cultural, emotional, and accessible spaces in ABCD projects would also be eligible. And a skilled ABCD practitioner working with youth on a collaborative arts project about their experiences as youth while also mentoring and providing real time learning for a cohort of emerging ABCD practitioners on how to facilitate that kind of a creative collaborative process. That would be eligible in category two as well. In terms of what wouldn't be eligible in category two, if you were doing workshops where the sole purpose is to develop an artistic skill, for example, workshops on painting or workshops on drumming, or workshops that do not have outcomes beyond learning an artistic skill or developing an artistic skill, even if there's a presentation of the work at the end of the training, are not eligible. It has to have community creating work. And training for professional artists or social service practitioners that does not focus on ABCD learning and skill development, so those artistic skill development workshops, are not eligible. These types of activities that are not specifically training people in facilitation of ABCD projects are not eligible in category 2, and just general skill development is not eligible anywhere in this program. Again, the community must be creating, or the project must be training facilitators in that creation project. So there is a professional artist requirement within this program, and all projects must engage a professional artist from any discipline, can be traditional or contemporary, who is a Canadian citizen and has been residing here for at least 12 months. You can absolutely engage more than one professional artist on your project as facilitators. However, we'll need to see at least one professional artist who meets those criteria. An artist is considered professional if they are recognized as professional by other practitioners who are working in their same artistic practice, if they're committed to working full time at their artistic practice when it's financially viable, if they've completed appropriate and relevant training in their field of practice, and that training can come through post secondary institutions and apprenticeships or traditional knowledge transfer with a qualified practitioner or knowledge keeper. They also need to have a minimum of 2 years of professional practice in their field following that training and have a demonstrated body of previous work or practice in their field, which they have received professional fees for. In terms of the amount you can request, ABCD grants range from $15,000 to $30,000. And the request amounts can be up to 50% of the total project budget or up to 65% for BC Arts Council designated priority groups. So, for example, if you have a $30,000 total budget, you could request up to $15,000 from the Arts Based Community Development Grant. Or if you're a designated priority group, you could request up to $19,500. For the remaining either 50% or 35%, if you're a designated priority group, you can use cash support from other sources like municipal or federal funding, foundation grants, donations, fundraisers, sponsorships, or ticket sales. And you can also use in kind donated things like free venue spaces or materials that you're getting donated. You'll just need to attach a fair value to those donated items. And chances are, if someone is providing you with free space, they most likely know what that's worth and can tell you. If you're curious about the BC Arts Council designated priority groups, they are Indigenous folks, Black and people of color, uh, people who are deaf or experience disability, and also anyone outside of the Metro Vancouver or the Capital Region area, also known as the Victoria area. One thing to note about this is that for an organization to be considered Indigenous, Black, or a person of color organization, or deaf or experiencing disability organization, there needs to be at least 51% of all your resources, plus representation on staff, board, and from the community dedicated to those specific communities. So if you're a Black led, Black focused organization, you would be considered a designated priority group. But if you're a white led organization with, let's say, one Black staff member and you do one Black focused show in the season of 4 shows per year, that is considered not necessarily considered a Black organization, but it is considered an awesome ally, just not a designated priority group at the BC Arts Council. For specifics or to confirm if you are a designated priority group, you can find a section on our website dedicated to designated priority groups with information also listed in the guidelines, or you can just call us or email us to ask directly. So also, don't get confused between our two programs. So as I said, ABCD Grants themselves range from $15,000 to $30,000 and can be up to 55% of the budget or 65% for designated priority groups. The Leon and Thea Koerner Award, however, can just be 100% of the budget for the LTK section, and they have to be a minimum request of 25,000. Up to 5 awards are given out each year. And just remember, you have to be a charity or another qualified donee under the Income Tax Act to request an LTK award. If you're not sure if you're eligible, just get in touch with us to confirm. So, how are applications evaluated? Your application, once it's submitted, will be assessed by a group of 3 to 5 artists or arts and cultural practitioners from the sector, which includes individuals with regional, Indigenous, and social service perspectives. Each assessor reads and scores all of the applications. Then they get together and meet as a group to discuss all of the applications together. And ultimately, they recommend funding applications that best demonstrate the intentions of the program and they respond to the assessment criteria that's published in the program PDF guidelines. The criteria for this program they are using to evaluate, score, and rank the applications that are submitted is 30% for reconciliation, equity, diversity, inclusion, and access, 20% for artistic contribution and significance, 30% for engagement and impact, and 20% for feasibility. In terms of that 30% for reconciliation, equity, diversity, inclusion, and access, there are a number of points in the PDF guidelines to consider, but overall it's considering how does the project advance opportunities in these areas. For the 20% of artistic contribution and significance, if they're considering is this a meaningful contribution and appropriate approach? For that 30% in engagement and impact, it's considering who is being served and how. How are those community participants being affected? And for the 20% feasibility, they're considering what is the plan? How clear is that plan? And how will your organization achieve it? Have you done something similar in the past? Assessors will specifically consider where did the idea come from to make this new work? Was it the community itself, which is ideal, or was it from the organization or a hired professional artist in a non collaborative way? Another thing is how do the participants actually create the works themselves? Are they given authority over what they make, which instills pride and understanding of the arts and creative expression as a method of personal expression, mental wellness, civic engagement for the individual participants? They'll also consider what is that process of creation? Is it a top down approach with a professional artist telling the participants what to do, which is not an ABCD approach? Or is it about the participants bringing their ideas to the professional artist, facilitating, advising, and supporting them in realizing their own unique visions, which is a very ABCD approach? They'll also consider what are the mechanisms for care and safety for ongoing and post project feedback and follow up. What happens after the project is over is often considered. They'll also ask what the public outcome of the work is. Is there an opportunity for the participants to share the creations they have made to instill pride and confidence and other great benefits of sharing their creative work? So, within your responses to the questions in the grant application, you want to clearly respond to some of these questions in your description. Paint a picture of how the project will go for the community, allowing them to imagine the process. Assessors want clear, straightforward responses that are specific and provide details on actions and plans and relationships. So don't get too fancy in describing things. It may cause some confusion or they may miss your point. Point form is also completely acceptable, and they are not evaluating your grammar or skill as a writer. So now you feel ready to get started. Well, first up, I want to let you know that the BC Arts Council offers accessibility support programs for applicants and for projects that receive funding through our grant programs. Organizations with a primary mandate to serve deaf or disability arts practice, meaning deaf and disability arts or services, are the main thing that you do, or maybe the only thing that you do, then you'll be eligible for accessibility programs, which are the first one, application assistance there, pays for support services in creating and submitting grant applications, registering in the online grant management system, and doing project updates or final reports. The second program is access support, which will actually provide additional funding that specifically supports access costs associated with creating or developing a project that's been funded by the BC Arts Council. You can contact us at any time to discuss the accessibility programs you may be eligible, or you can find more information on them at bcartscouncil.ca/accessibility. So, second thing you want to do is make sure that you read the full PDF guidelines for the ABCD and LTK program, which are available on our website at bcartscouncil.ca to download. While this video is a good basic overview of the program, the PDF guidelines contain more detail and specifics about when the application intake closes, the deadline. You can't submit after the deadline unless you get a formal extension, and that's only given in extenuating circumstances like severe illness or death, natural disasters, or other things beyond your control. It'll also detail out what you can and cannot apply for. Make sure you go over this well so that you don't waste your time applying for something that will not be accepted. It'll also detail really specifically what costs are eligible and what kind of costs are excluded. There's actually a significant list of what kinds of costs are not allowed in the program and will not be accepted. So make sure that you go over them in those PDF guidelines. It also provides details on the assessment criteria, things that you want to consider for your application. Each part of the assessment criteria has several bullet points of things that assessors will consider when they're reading your application and scoring it. So you'll want to make sure that you're addressing as many of those points as possible in your application to score highly. And, we do appreciate how complicated grant applications can be. And the PDF guidelines contain real specifics on all the bits and bobs and pieces that you'll need for the application. And to help you gather all the right stuff, we've even included a checklist to help make sure you get everything. You can print that out and tick off those boxes as you complete things for the application. So, all right, it's early and you've gone over the guidelines line by line and you have the support that you need. So now what? How do you actually get started on the grant? Well, if you're new to the BCAC, the first thing you need to do is register for our grant management system at bcac.smartsimple.ca. And this can actually take some time to get approved and up and running. So do it right away if you don't already have a profile in our system. All grants to BC Arts Council are submitted through this system, so you can't really do anything until you're in. However, if you are already registered or once you are registered, you'll need to provide or update your contact information so we know where to send a check if you're successful, your board or band council and staff lists. We want to know who you are as an organization. Your organization's constitution and statement of purpose needs to be uploaded to your profile, and that's the one that's on file with BC Societies, and you can download a copy of that from Societies online. You'll also need to provide financial statements for the 2 previous fiscal years you've gone through. This should include an income statement of your overall revenues and expenses, a balance sheet that shows what assets or equity or property that you might have, and also includes a list of the grants and grant amounts that you've received from different funders by the funder name. These should be signed, those financial statements, they should be signed by at least one of your board members or band council members. You'll also need to complete the designated priority groups section of your profile. So you can choose to identify as one of our priority groups or not, but keep in mind the expectation is that a majority of all aspects of your organization are dedicated to or located within that specific group or region. And then you'll also need to complete the equity data tool to be considered for designated priority group funding prioritization. And you'll need to provide some details about how your organization meets that majority requirement for your specific priority group or groups. So, in terms of step two, this is where you'll actually write the application. So you're going to start that application in the grant management system. And again, we only accept applications in the online system. You can use our application preview Word document to draft your responses outside of the system. And this can be found on our website on the Artspace Community Development page and downloaded. It can be handy to have a place outside of the system to work and collaborate in. Then you'll just need to cut and paste your responses into the online system when you're ready. But watch out for those word counts and do that cut and pasting early in case you might need to edit things down a little bit. You'll also want to pay close attention to the required questions in the application. Leaving those blank will create confusion or questions for the assessors. For example, if you respond not applicable, the assessors will wonder why not. It's better to tell them why not in the application itself. Just remember to use clear, plain language, be specific, and provide specific steps and actions that paint a picture of your project. When assessors can imagine clearly what you're doing, your application will really come to life. If it's too poetic, art speaky, or academic, things may be missed, overlooked, or not understood. So be careful and avoid jargon and keep it simple. The assessors may not know the special terms that you use too, so be sure to define them in your application. You also don't need to write to fill the entire box up. Short, clear answers that detail your intentions, specifics on how and why, and actions are really appreciated. And point form is totally acceptable. Again, you don't need to fill the whole box up. You just need to answer the questions clearly. And if you're struggling with any question, what it's asking or how you should respond, you can email or call a program advisor and we can help clarify those application questions. So step three would be gathering all of your materials. So required for all applications is at least one professional artist information form. And this can be found on our website on the A-BCD page as well. It's a PDF document form that you'll need to have filled out by at least one of your professional artists. It must be completed by the artist themselves and not by the organization. It is their opportunity to talk about their ABCD experience and how they're going to facilitate the process to ensure participants are creating themselves and being supported through the process. This allows the assessors to imagine the artist working with the community participants and is really an opportunity for that professional artist to talk directly to the assessment panel. The second required thing for all applications is a community support letter from the specific community you are collaborating with. This should come from an individual within the community you're working with and speak to why the project is relevant, how they intend to participate, or how the idea came about. If the community itself is asking for the project, this is a great thing to include in the community support letter. Required for the LTK applications, all LTK Award applications, that's the Leon and Thea Koerner Award, require at least one social service lead form. This form is also on our website and should be completed by an individual who is a social service practitioner. It'll ask them to write about their experience and how they will support the safety and dignity in the process. If this is relevant to your ABCD project, but you're not applying to the Leon and Thea Koerner Award component, you can also include a social service lead form if you'd like. If you are a social service organization, you do still need to provide the form and have it completed by an individual. And this can be done by someone from your team who will be working directly on the project. And there are a few optional materials that you can include and are probably a good idea to include. And this is one of them is a letter. You can include a letter from up to two partners describing their partnership. We don't want you to include general letters talking about how great you are. The assessors have so much to review, and this may just waste their time. So please only include letters from partners who are truly participating in the project that you're applying for. And the letter should detail how they're participating to confirm their partnership and also include anything they are providing, like free space, support staff, supplies, or promotions, whatever they are giving to the project. You'll also want to make sure if you are involving Indigenous nations, Indigenous consultants, elders, or knowledge keepers, a confirmation from them might also be a good idea. It can be something simple like a screenshot of some text messages or an email exchange or something that demonstrates that you have a relationship with them and they're aware that you've included them in the application. You can also include examples of work related to the project, up to 5 images or 5 minutes of audio or video or 3 pages of written material. This does not mean 5 images and 5 minutes of audio or video. It means five of something in total, either or. So a combination like 3 images and 2 minutes of video would meet that criteria. That equals five together. So make sure when you're considering these examples of work that you are curating your support material to show the assessors your past work, your capability, or a vision for your project. Visual materials do always help, and make sure this material matches what you're talking about in the grant and what the project is. Make sure it's all relevant and helps paint that picture of what you're doing and how you're doing it. So, when you're ready to submit your application, just make sure that you've checked that the application is complete before submitting. Have you answered all the questions? Have you updated all your profile pieces in the BC Arts Council system? Staff will not contact you to address missing or incorrect information, and eligible applications are submitted or assessed as they are submitted. So be sure to just go through that checklist one more time and make sure that you've got everything when you're ready to submit. And lastly, you're probably wondering how long it'll take to find out. So, applicants will be notified within 16 weeks or 4 months of the program deadline. It takes a bit of time to get these applications read and assessed and through our systems. So, if the deadline is in mid May, you can expect to have results by mid September, which is 16 weeks or 4 months later. Results will be emailed to the email address on file, and results can't be released on the phone before they're emailed out. If you are successful, funding is paid by check, mailed to the address that you have on file, so make sure that address is correct, and that'll be sent within 3 to 4 weeks of the results email. We also appreciate that feedback on how your application was assessed can help you improve as a grant applicant. So, feedback is available from your program advisor if you're successful or not successful. Just reach out and we will book a time to discuss your results. If you have any questions about the application or the guidelines, don't hesitate to reach out by email or by phone. The program advisor contact information is on the PDF guidelines and on the program webpage at bcartscouncil.ca. But you can also call our general line, which is listed here on the screen, or email our general inbox, and our wonderful admin staff will direct your inquiry to the relevant person. It is a really good idea to connect with us early as things get very busy as the deadlines approach. And really, it's just a great idea to connect with us. We'd love to hear from you. To stay up to date on BC Arts Council program launches and information sessions and videos, check out our website regularly and follow us on Facebook or X, which used to be called Twitter. So that concludes this presentation on the Arts-Based Community Development and Leon and Thea Koerner Award. I hope this was helpful and I hope to hear from you soon. All right, take care.